Hello, everybody. My name is Grace Bell, and I teach some programs in eating peace. So if you're struggling with eating and you've been working on it sometimes for years, we need to often go down into understanding the mind. At least that's what I found to be true for me and my own healing. So this presentation I learned from Rachel Rogers, a wonderful coach who just showed this Venn diagram and a way to put this framework together. And I hope it's useful for you today. So what I really wanted more than anything for myself, and what I want for you, honestly, is to be a peaceful eater. So we call it fondly in programs that I teach an eating PC. I struggled for so many years and wondered, how can I ever find peace with this issue? I'm going to have to just control it or struggle with it forever. Not the case. So an eating PC is someone who is at ease with food. It means that all foods can exist. You know what works and what doesn't work. Food can be around you and you don't have to fixate on what's right or wrong with food. You're free to eat or not eat, whatever's right for you. You're a caretaker of yourself. You're allowing food to flow in and out of your focus with ease, not with distress. We all know what it's like to be with someone who wants to make sure everyone knows their diet, or who condemns certain foods and is busy avoiding them, or has a lot of anxiety around eating. I've been there. An eating PC can go anywhere in the world and be happy with eating. So, ease. An eating PC has ease with food and eating. An eating PC is also kind to the body. That means that we can accept our weight, our body shape, our image, our unique condition, our age, as the inherent raw material we have the privilege of working with. And I know we struggle a lot and have seen, I hate the way that looks. I'm not in favor of it. We know what it's like to complain about the body and be aggressive towards it. But an eating PC knows she can handle the body she's given with compassion and kindness, and trusts she's got the power to bring it into complete alignment, into health. So an eating PC is studying, practicing kindness, even if the voices don't sound so kind. And third, an eating PC has an empowered relationship with mind. Most important at all, power. And I mean the good kind of power. Not a big egotistical, pumped up power. But when what's going on in the mind, there's this order of creation. We think, and then we feel almost immediately in the body, and then we act based on those thoughts and those feelings. And often there's more thoughts about the feelings and about the thinking. And so we've got the results of this off-balance eating, right? Whether the thoughts are troubling or happy, though, when we feel a sense of empowerment, even just a drop, we know our thoughts don't run our entire experience of eating. It's like the mind is not solely in charge of this project. An eating PC has disidentified from believing stressful thoughts about food, eating, feelings, and the body, and learn to accept thoughts that rise, ugly and beautiful. Basically, she's highly aware of the difference between telling a story about herself and the world and believing it to be true. So, to be an eating PC, you are at ease, you are kind, or you're returning to that, and you're feeling empowered with food and body and mind. I know that isn't always the way it looks, but that's the depth of intention, and it's actually who we are already. These things are present, and we move towards them. So what do we need to do to be a completely peaceful eater? So first thing is have a welcoming view. Welcome. We have felt very unwelcome towards this predicament. Have you noticed? So when we have a welcoming and open door perspective, like we really want to study this and see what's going on, we're no longer stuck in the fear of what will happen with food and eating our bodies in the future or what happened in the past. I mean, we've gone over that over and over again with food, eating in our bodies. We dissolve shame and we're simply okay with what is and what comes along. We follow simply directions powerfully. I'll say more about this in a minute. Next, I call it dining on inquiry. We need to get really good at inquiry, self-inquiry. Just being so curious and asking questions and then answering them. It's like to live in a question mark. My mentor, Byron Katie, who's one of the most wonderful founders of this simple way to be with our mind and thoughts and to question them, would say we're living in a question mark and it's okay. When we practice curiosity and investigate our beliefs, we see that we can't know the truth with a capital T. When we inquire with an open mind, we dissolve the identity as someone with an eating problem. You notice how strong that gets and so how intense? I mean, I was just like, I am someone with an eating problem, like a calling card. When we question our beliefs and turn them around, we break the spells about pleasure and pain that we've been living with, sometimes for years. So a key area of inquiry when it comes to dissolving addiction is to stop assuming what we believe about feelings, mainly that they're dangerous. And we accept our emotions, which I like to call the inner baby, our feelings. Call feelings so childish, right? Inner baby, just accepting of that. It's like the welcoming stance. We also unmuffle our hungers, let our wants, needs, desires come out and be seen, mostly by ourselves. I'll say more about all these in a minute. Lastly, loving what is. Love what is. What an amazing concept. Love what is. Now, this is not like trying to enforce or make yourself be a loving person at all times when that's not honest, like whatever we think love is. Just to be a permanently peaceful eater is to love whatever's happening. This isn't the kind of love you might be thinking like puppies or rainbows, gentleness, smile on the face. It's like we start feeling love for our eating behavior itself, treat ourselves with tender, unconditional acceptance. Like we just wouldn't come into this predicament or experience without some things being off and to see, wow, I can find out what those are. To be willing to see the benefits we found from the way we've eaten can be an enormous turnaround. And just to hold that and like, instead of all that shame and attack, we're willing to be with what is. I like to call this coming to life's table. It's almost as if life is a table and saying, hey, welcome to this table. We've been saying often, I don't want to sit at it. I don't like the chair. I don't like the food. I don't like what you're offering. I'm not really fully in it. This is the table. We might as well sit down, be humble. My favorite hip hop songs, Kendrick Lamar, sit down, be humble, rather than endlessly demanding it to be changed. This is giving up, but not in resignation. This is important. We stop striving for peace in the future. We notice freedom now. I mean, where is it going to be, eating peace? It's got to be a drop of it. It's got to be available now, where it feels like it's going to be never found. When we deliberately allow what is, we feed on freedom in the moment rather than being a victim and trapped and in prison. And we don't need to gobble or avoid foods or our beliefs anymore. So, if we don't welcome our eating, we'll remain fixed in our decisions about eating and about ourselves from the past, and have an ever-present search for a better way tomorrow, like the newest diet, thinness, right and wrong about food, where I'm going to get, and about ourselves. We'll feel confused and as if we don't have resources within for being with life freely. Like, this can't be it. This isn't enough over here. That's what's going on. We'll feel afraid and angry and ashamed of ourselves. We won't be clear about the role of food. We'll feel hungry, even or especially when we're too full, and we won't be able to leave food alone. We'll remain dissatisfied and hungry. Dissatisfied and hungry. If we don't dine on self-inquiry, like eat self-inquiry, like the way we've eaten food, if we don't eat inquiry instead of food, if we don't question our stories and our thoughts and our feelings about food and eating in our bodies, we'll remain believers that who we are is small, insignificant. We won't be able to break the spells, accept our raw feelings as human, or enjoy our own desires. We'll remain identified with what is temporary, and we'll feel endlessly unstable and powerless. I felt so unstable and powerless when it came to food. Either that or hyper intensely powerful, and it was, that bullying kind of power. And if we don't accept the invitation to love what is, like to make friends with what is, to be allowing what is, if love is like just, it's a tricky word sometimes, love what is, and live peaceful eating, we might consume information and understand a great deal intellectually and theoretically. We'll be good analyzers. We'll know a lot even about nutrition, but we won't actually change what and how we eat. And know deep in our bones that we are free to not eat and to eat in the perfect balance called for in every situation. You're born that way, but we've kind of think, it must be gone. It must be suppressed or gone forever. If you won't come fully to life's table, knowing you belong at the table because you exist, you'll keep discounting your power. And if you don't include your unique life at the table of life, you'll continue to live life based on your past and what's happened to you, and you'll resent and fear and eat off balance because of it. I sure did. And you'll live in the I know mind. I know this is bad. I know I'm wrong. And you'll find yourself arguing with reality, and you'll continue to fight what is. Fight what is. Okay, so in order to be a peaceful eater from the inside out, you need to hold a welcoming view, curiosity about all that's ever happened with food and eating, your impulses, food, and then life itself. Like what's happening before we eat? What's the habit? What's been going on? In order to be a peaceful eater, we need to eat inquiry, drop our identity by breaking spells, the identity of the one with a problem, and we need to practice loving what is instead of hating what is, and live our turnarounds with food and life. So let's break this down. Okay. The first step to becoming welcoming is to gather simple foundational ingredients together. I really love the image of the staples for your inner kitchen. In French cooking, apparently they say mise en place. It's stocked. We have these basics. There's basics that are in the kitchen. We don't actually go into a cupboard, the kitchen with cupboards bare. They're stocked. And these are just like beginning to be aware of simple tools that can help us be welcoming. Foundation. And the kitchen. It's kind of a good image to have a kitchen. But this involves an agreement for how we'll work with our own stress within yourself. Like safety first is the most important thing. Safety with other people, safety with the past, safety with energy. Often I found it was all about fear when I was like zipping off into overeating or zipping off into undereating. Just lack of safety. So we must see who we are: adequate, capable. Next, to be in that having a well-stocked kitchen, we need to put in there a view of wondering or wonder. To be welcoming here, we're wondering instead of hatred or hopelessness. If you've got a pattern of despair about this, and then anger and hatred, hopelessness, hatred, then you see, oh, that's my go-to. That's what I do to kind of get space. But we need to be willing to feel hungry or empty, as well as satisfied and full, which are both temporary. This means hungry or full existentially, emotionally, physically. Just willing to be in those states of being. They are all temporary. So we're adopting the view of wonder and willing to be hungry or full. And I'd say probably being hungry or full is the most important here. It's really possible to do inquiry work on the states of hunger and fullness and everything in between. And finally, to be welcoming, what we need in our foundational kitchen is to drop the knife. This means to stop applying aggression to this problem. Stop stabbing yourself. This happens in the mind. Attacking, fighting, willpower, control. Drop the knife. Okay. Next. Oh, I did it. I just wrote these in the wrong place. That's so funny. Okay. All three of those go in the first segment. So all these are part of the foundational kitchen that we need. We're setting up our kitchen. We're adopting the view of wonder, and we're dropping the knife. These are all basics that we need to start with to be open to welcoming in the first place. Next, in order to welcome, so those are we just set that up. Drop the knife. Be willing to be hungry or empty and full and satisfied. And then, just get everything stocked. All right. Like how you're going to deal with stress. Next, to be welcoming around food, we need to work with shame. We need to welcome shame. It's an alarm bell for alertness. Shame. So we need to actually allow the inner voices that we've adopted and merged with, often since family of origin. And we need to see these stories that we're telling about our history that involve our behaviors, body image, food, eating, comfort, pleasure, receiving. We shine the light on shame. And last, when we want to have this welcoming experience, adopt a new stance towards this problem, quote unquote problem, we need to design a peace menu for ourselves. This means actually being clear about our food. Sometimes there's so much chaos. I don't know what to eat. And so much, agony there that we do need to just be deliberate about our peace menu. We need to create a flexible, kind way of eating that works for us. It won't always be this way. I don't plan anything when it comes to food and eating, and that's our natural human way. But I'm clear about what food works and what doesn't. So what you eat does matter. I love that the word matter comes from the physical word for mother, physicality, support, nourishment, nurturing, what actually grows and fuels you. So what you eat does supply fuel to you. And there's a lot around that, that you need to be clear about. And most of us already know what works and what doesn't. But we need to see what brings rest to the body. And when we follow a clear peace menu for ourselves, created by ourselves, with what I like to call, with an exercise that we do in eating peace called the inner compassionate advisor, then we have a trust for it. We trust the food. This is not going on a diet. It's a permanent way of being with food that works. And it doesn't mean there won't be adjustments over time. But having structure dissolves the chaos and impulse eating. So that's what we do with welcoming. There's a lot there. To welcome is to be willing to open our eyes to studying this condition without judgment or rage about it being wrong. It's a paradox. But see what relaxing with this, exactly where you are right now, does. Just do it for a moment right now. What if it's okay to be everything you've ever been and everything you've ever experienced about food and eating just right now for 30 seconds? Let's say it's okay and you don't have a thought about it. It can be profoundly healing. To stop practicing the same behavior around food also allows what's under the surface being sedated to appear more clearly. When we're working with a peace menu. So we can see what we're doing is welcoming ourselves home. We're not being haunted by food to get our attention. We're listening. We're in honest conversation with ourselves, the inner selves that we are so wanting to get to be with and touch. Our feelings are also allowed to exist when we're welcoming. It's okay to be a baby. When we're welcomed and allowed, they dissolve away in a natural process. So when we welcome, we grow in confidence as we choose from our peace menu and what works for us. We actually have a choice. It doesn't feel like we have no choice. Okay, so the next element, self-inquiry, dining on inquiry, just eating it up, taking it in. To eat wonder, we need to do 3 things. And the first is break spells. We learned the work of Byron Katie. 4 questions and finding turnarounds. We're recognizing the stories we're telling. It's hard to see them. These stories are beliefs. They create an identity or a habit. And this identity says, I'm the one who's the problem eater, or I just need to eat right now, or I need to not eat right now. I need to manage this. I'm the one who suffers with this. I am alone. We break these kind of spells by applying 4 questions and finding turnarounds. These beliefs are hypnotizing, but we don't have to live believing our thoughts with these painful identities. So we're actually looking at identity change in this whole process. Breaking spells needs to happen here. To dine on inquiry, we also, as I mentioned, we don't abort our feelings. We allow them. So I call this letting the inner baby out. I love that we call feelings are so childish and babyish, and we kind of mock them sometimes, but every adult has got that. They just seem to sweep in, but we have a choice about how we respond to feelings, even if we don't have a choice about actually feeling. But let ourselves be babies. We get clear about what rational therapy calls addictive voice recognition. Really love that. And I call it mean girl recognition. That identity usually feels powerless, empty, afraid. It's a bully. We question these states of stress and what they mean. So feelings, letting your inner baby come alive, letting it be there can be very freeing. And last, to dine on inquiry, we need to accept our desires, hungers, wants, cravings, instead of judging them. Like, it's okay to be thirsty. We all know it's okay to be thirsty. In fact, it's not just okay, it's life-saving. What stops the thirst, or what happens when we feel thirsty? We move towards water. It shows us to drink. So we don't want that to go away. So when we welcome our desires, instead of suppressing them, sedating them, making them wrong, we don't need food or other compulsions to sub in, like substitute for the true water we're seeking. So to get to see these desires better, how wonderful. It's actually very liberating. It's okay to want, it's okay to desire, it's okay to seek, but be comfortable with that instead of believing there it is out there and it's not here. It's very interesting. So when we dine on inquiry, we're looking at the way thought, emotions, and eating flow in and out of our lives. And we're finding a balance with the flow. We'll have difficult thoughts, but we apply 4 questions and turnarounds and break spells. We don't have to believe what we think. When we're not believing we're shameworthy, and when we're not afraid of our childish and babyish feelings, we're accepting the capacity to feel our feelings all the way through instead of controlling them. When we're following our peace menu with clarity, we're able to notice what we're truly hungry for. We can feed ourselves with the appropriate nourishment and not use food as an actual substitute. So these build on each other. Finally, we need to love what is, which I know is no small thing, or at least be willing to. Even if I can't fully love it all the time, like, you notice that the mind makes what it looks like out to be. But this is like living our turnarounds as we do the work. By turnarounds, I mean the practice that we're practicing and feeling into the peaceful opposites or new ways of seeing ourselves and life. We discover these turnarounds from questioning our stories about life itself, eating, food, feelings, being seen, body image. These opposites or turnarounds allow us to access that peace, thinking peace, feeling peace we've been longing for. So we regain our freedom. So what I like to say about this as we are living our turnarounds and experiencing a new way to be, a new identity really, is I like to say we come to life's table. It's like life is offering up a surprise every day for each one of us. And it's also offered this compulsive experience. But we sit down at life. Instead of criticizing or being afraid of the table, let's sit. In a way, it's opening up to more than just food and eating. It's our way that we're seeing food and eating is the way that we're seeing much of life. So instead of criticizing or being afraid of the table, sit down. We're witnessing, relaxing, trusting the flow of what's temporary and seeing what's permanent. So what's temporary is thought, feeling, food, behavior, people, situations, events. So much content of life is flowing by, temporary. When we allow ourselves at the table of life fully, we feel the seat we're sitting on. That's present. We hardly ever look at that. We feel the stability, the persistence of our nature. We know we're okay right now and now. Like life is flowing through us. It's what Eckhart Tolle called the power of now. It's what he's talking about. So to come to life's table is really, a huge invitation, but it's like, let's look and see what my attitude is towards the contents of life itself and what I've experienced. Second, with loving what is, we're living to live our turnarounds here, we're stopping intense striving for peace later. Later when I get thin, or later when I have what I believe, later I'll be happy. I mean, it's okay to really be noticing I am thirsty and unhappy now, but we think it's unfindable. So there's sort of a loss in this perspective. So we're okay with what we have and open for more. It's an interesting stance, but it's like, wow, here I am, and let's see where this goes. Stop striving. We're not pushing away what's happened in the past or trying to get to this perfect place. It makes me even think of like the search for enlightenment when it gets very tight and grabby and pushy, that like it's not here and I've got to get somewhere personally. So it's practicing the turnarounds to number 6, which is something that is a part of the end of practicing in the work of Byron Katie. It's a key point in the work. We have the freedom to live our experience. I'm willing to experience this, whatever it is that I might have been against. I look forward to experiencing this, whatever it is that we thought we were against. And finding out why, just looking, we stop being against what is. Even if we can't love it, we know we're here, supported, and powerful. I mean, what is here? Instead of this is not enough, this is not enough. So it's not enlightenment in the future, getting the body or the eating or the cravings or even the mind itself perfect. The feeling of lightness is available now. And then when we do this, the body naturally follows. So what we're doing is we're just stopping striving. It's like giving up in a good way without resignation. So lastly, to love what is. We're deliberate about allowing what is. I like the word deliberate because it's just like we return our attention. We all know what it's like to deliberately be on a binge. You're directed. This is the track I'm on. I'm in here. It's just that then we just come up for air out of it and we hate what just happened. But this is deliberate about allowing what is and all the things that seem to be in conflict. But I couldn't love some of the things that happened in my life or in the world, but that was my definition of love. I could see life went on. I could allow what is. So our focus is freedom when allowing what is. Anything can happen. We might feel deeply, but we don't need to eat or do anything self-harming or aggressive to manage it. We don't absolutely need to eat off balance or avoid eating. We become clear that eating doesn't solve problems except physical hunger, so we're not interested in it for any reason other than hunger and balanced health. We're powerful and free. It's like we just can wind up doing what works and not doing what doesn't work. It's not even an issue. That can actually happen for you. I mean, that's the natural way for all of us. We trust that things are working out for us, especially things that have nothing to do with food. Byron Katie says this: we can shoot for the moon when we have inquiry. For me, this begins with allowing, loving what is, not suffering with what is or hating what is. So we're deliberately allowing. Sometimes it's an easier way to see it than to say love. So these are the 9 steps to becoming a peaceful eater. Getting your foundational kitchen in place, which has to do with how you're going to manage stress. Those 3 things I wrote across the board at the beginning. Shame and getting a peaceful menu that you're going to, check into and discover and be with. Doing inquiry, living, dining, eating, inquiry. Breaking spells, the work of Byron Katie. Allowing yourself to have the inner baby come out and being accepting of your desires. And last, loving what is, coming to life's table, stopping that endless pushing and striving so that this moment now is not okay, and allowing ourselves to be deliberate about just being with what is. So let's do a little assessment here. This can be interesting. All right, starting with step 1 and welcoming. Welcoming where we are. We're stocking our eating peace kitchen with the ingredients, the metaphorical kitchen, right? Our built-in ways for handling stress and the actual kitchen. So we're gathering these ingredients we need for a peaceful life with food and our mind and our feelings. And in this welcoming stage, we're noticing that we've believed a story that's fueling off-balance eating behaviors or compulsive movement. And we're willing to apply the medicine. And it's like you go out, you get the medicine together, so you've got it in your kitchen. Put it that way. Stressful thoughts bring uncomfortable feelings. And if you're easily able to recognize that you're thinking and you're believing your thoughts, and you're able to pause, give yourself a green. Okay. If you're sometimes able to see that you are thinking and believing thoughts, and you can interrupt your thought streams that keep you stressed, give yourself a blue. And if you're just a pool of horrible feelings about eating, and you're not even sure what or that you're thinking at all, and you feel overwhelmed with feelings and reactivity, give yourself a red. Just about everybody comes in here, it's just, I don't know what to do. They don't feel like there's any foundation to stand on when it comes to handling stress and what to eat and all of it. Very normal. Okay. Second shine a light on shame shadows. Shame is this key primary fuel for addiction and compulsive behaviors, just embarrassment, guilt, shame. I don't want people to know this. The thing is, when it comes to compulsions, these voices are often rising out of trauma from the past, an inability to communicate comfortably with people, fear, family of origin stories, messages about being seen and having a body. If you can hear these voices and identities, we often feel ashamed of and remember they're not who you actually are. If you can welcome them as assistants supporting you, that is a way to bridge the gap between being a believer and freedom. So if you understand that the blanket of shame is a blinding blanket, and you're able to see, oh, that's shame visiting, and you're able to drop below it and just keep looking, kind of accept where you are and keep looking, and that anything you've ever done or judged is just a shame blanket, give yourself a green. I felt like it took me a long, long time to recognize and really see the feeling, the sense, the nausea, the wanting to hide under a couch that would come along with shame. And I thought, oh, this is shame. Then I know what to do. So I'm doing that thing that puts me in a cave. So if you can recognize that, give yourself a green. If you get caught in the shame cycle, which I also like to call sin, guilt, punishment. Sin, guilt, punishment. Now I'm okay because I've been punished for a little bit, but now I'm sinning again. If you do that and you get stuck in believing thoughts about yourself that feel sickening, but then you move towards inquiry, help, recovery, kindness, and you maybe take from an inner kitchen that's got some stocked management, ways to work with stress in it. Give yourself a blue. If you never question that you should be ashamed of yourself, if you persist in believing self-critical or negative thoughts about your eating, body, or food choices without investigation, like if avoidance behavior or crazy eating behavior or despair with who you are seems to come from out of the blue, as if the world thinks you're unworthy, then you give yourself a red. And often people are here with the red. Shame is such a strong emotional experience. And to recognize that it's just a story can be tricky. Got to see it as a story to be able to step out of it and see who's looking and noticing it isn't a story. It's not a true story. And last, creating your peace menu. So when we feel unclear about how to proceed with eating, very chaotic or uncertain about eating itself, then that can dominate our relationship with eating. Just, I have no idea what's going on or what to eat. In this step, we see what our food rules and regulations are, and we investigate, and we work with what we know is the best way to eat, the best menu, without our story of scarcity or dieting or weight loss needs or war with food. If we feel very clear about what way of eating works for us, and we're able to trust and allow our inner guidance with eating and a food protocol, like especially hunger and fullness, most of all, we can respond to hunger and fullness and give yourself a green. If you know what works without scarcity or control getting in the mix, give yourself a blue. And if you have no idea what to eat and you feel resistance or lack of safety with a peace menu, or you just wish someone would tell you how and what to eat, give yourself a red. This is interesting. Sometimes people come and they've really been successful with some kind of way of eating. They just don't feel that great about it. I don't know. It's kind of a mix. I'm gonna give this one a blue, because I think people sometimes do know what to eat. They don't have absolutely no idea what to eat. They just feel more unwilling. They don't want to be controlled or have to manage, which is all very understandable. But a lot of us know a whole lot about food and nutrition from all the wanting to take in and learn that we've done. Okay. So next, to dine on inquiry, breaking spells first, which is the work. When we're curious and we understand discomfort and stress is the way in and through, we get to question our beliefs. 4 questions and finding turnarounds. It's the work of Byron Katie. If you have a basic handle on the 4 questions and experience in answering those, is great news. There are 3 doorways important in uncovering eating peace. And I call them like these umbrellas of looking: feeling afraid, feeling powerless, and feeling empty. Empty can be boredom also. These are situations when you perceive lack of safety, afraid, anger sometimes, being a victim, powerless, or feeling dissatisfied, empty, lonely, bored. If you see feelings of fear, powerlessness, or emptiness, I often like to say ape when I am teaching you, so we just know afraid or angry, powerless, empty. If you see these as triggers for doing the work, instead of triggers to be crazy with food, give yourself a green. If you're comfortable with the work, those 4 questions and turnarounds, and sometimes you're aware you're threatened, sometimes you're aware you feel like a victim or less than satisfied, and you're willing to do the work on these situations, give yourself a blue. If you're completely unsure about how to do the work or how to examine fearful, powerless, or empty thinking, and eating is your go-to comfort, give yourself a red. Often people who make their way to eating peace are actually familiar with the work of Byron Katie and self-inquiry in any form. Even if you don't know the work and the 4 questions, you know that this has something to do with mindset, and you've been willing to look, how do we change habits? How do we look at all the amazing work that's being done out there? So I'm going to give it a blue. So as we dine on inquiry, second step is to let your inner baby be. Allow the feelings. You really can't change them. So let's let them be there. If you have beliefs that certain feelings are wrong or not allowed or against the law or even morally evil, you'll be fighting the human process of feeling, whether they're demonstrated in you or in other people. So to honor feelings, no matter how uncomfortable or ugly you think they are, or that others have been in expressing them, this is compassionate to the self and to the world, to honor them. Very compassionate. If you feel open and approving of the full range of human emotions in yourself and in others, give yourself a green. If you feel sometimes willing and able to accept feelings in yourself and others, give yourself a blue. If you refuse or feel too terrified, if you refuse to allow fear, anger, rage, sadness, grief, despair to be present in yourself or in other people, give yourself a red. I'm going to go with blue on this one too today. I think a lot of people have done a tremendous amount of therapeutic work. They've realized what's going on with so many of their feelings. They see that they've got that baby inside, but not so comfortable with it. Sometimes willing to accept and see, maybe in 101, one-on-one therapeutic sessions, we've been okay with having the feelings, but kind of want to stop there. And I had where I was is I felt refusal to be terrified. I did not want anger or rage. I thought it was horrible. I didn't want to be grieving. So I would just have this clutch against any strong or big feelings and just want to shut down around them, hated them. And so I was definitely in a red. And third, in dining on inquiry, get comfortable with desire and hunger. So if we think the best way to handle our difficulties with food and eating or feelings and thoughts is to force yourself to stop wanting to eat, stop having all those desires, or you expect yourself to be passively okay with everything, you won't find the joy available to you as you dream or grow or blossom in your life. I just find naturally desire comes again and again and again for so much. Often, those of us with eating issues have been unable to say no in our lives in the past. So learning to say no safely allows us to say yes safely too. So if you feel happy with your dreams and longings, give yourself a green. If you tend to suppress your desires and wants and feel very careful about them, if you feel unsafe in the presence of cravings for food or cravings for anything, give yourself a blue. And if you feel ashamed, disgusted, or angry about the experience of wanting and desire, you put the brakes on them, you think of them as very dangerous, which often, by the way, means exploding with chaotic eating or grabbing in a highly anxious way like I did, give yourself a red. Many people feel a pretty strong, like sort of hatred towards their own desires. I just wish I didn't want. That's all I want. I don't want to want. I don't want to want. I don't want to want. I'm going to stop wanting. I sure did. Okay. Last of all, loving what is. Coming to life's table means really, well, you're at life's table already. But to come is like a willingness within. To come and sit feels pretty different than like being kind of with resignation or I didn't ask to be born, like that kind of feeling. So for those familiar with self-inquiry, you know this can't be just a head exercise or a mindset exercise or a thinking exercise. If you don't come to the table and be with all the food of life, you won't get the chance to share the ups and downs, all the good tastes and the bad ones. If you know you can enjoy the table and be willing to see life's table differently, using the power of inquiry and your imagination and turnarounds, give yourself a green. If you mistrust coming to the table, you tend to divide it into right and wrong. Like we've all done this. But when you find you've left the table, like you guys go ahead and eat without me, I'm out of here, and you're willing to come back and sit again, give yourself a blue. So if you come back and you're in again, give yourself a blue. And if you find yourself fully caught in and believing your thoughts and feeling stress when at the table of life without question, give yourself a red. When I was really suffering intensely with binge eating, I was just like I was practically suicidal. I don't want to be at this table of life. Get me out of here. I mean, it really was. I didn't ask to be born. I know it sounds really victim-y, but that's kind of how I felt at this base level. So that'd be a red. Very, very painful. Many of us see it this way, and we don't recognize that actually we're not as much in red as we think. We're more in blue because we keep coming back. We're still here. You're here watching this. So we're really more in blue. Like we might take ourselves out and isolate, but we come back. You know, we're willing. It just moves in and out like the tide. But really, that experience of being a green is amazing. We can have our reactions to life, but we know then something settles down and we move forward and we're still here enjoying the table of life. That's what it's like to be in a green. So, second, stop striving. If you find yourself able to relax into not knowing and you trust the flow of life, you feel some aspect of life has your back, especially when it comes to food and eating, give yourself a green. If you're suspicious and anxious about your safety and you believe you need to find the answer half the time, or that you aren't enough and neither is life itself, give yourself a blue. If you're positive you are not enough and the answer to eating peace or any peace is somewhere beyond you, and you believe you have to get motivated, struggle, hunt it down and find it, fight and push, do something about yourself, that's the wrong thing to, the wrong way to be. If you're striving your way to peace, working, fighting, give yourself a red. Oh my goodness. That would be a red for the way I've been when it came to compulsive movement. Yeah, not willing to be where I am. I gotta read, I gotta Google, I gotta go here, I've got to take this class, I've got to take this program. Nothing wrong with like studying. I mean, I love to read and I still love to take in a lot of information, but it's nice to hold that as not required for happiness. And that includes people getting really caught up in just wanting to wake up, whatever that is, in ancient practices, like a compulsion to be somewhere else than where you are, can be so intense. Okay, lastly, we're going to feed freedom by allowing deliberately. If you know there's freedom for you here in life now, even when you don't see what to do or where to go or how to do it, and you're able to rest in comfort, give yourself a green. I heard a somebody once say that once they had been here really deliberately allowing everything to be as it is, including themselves and their own feelings, they were only 45 minutes away maximum from resting in comfort in any moment. Awesome. If you feel free some of the time and trapped some of the time when it comes to life or eating or feelings or thoughts, give yourself a blue. If you feel you're in prison with this eating thing or with life itself, give yourself a red. I don't know. I think I'm going with red. Most of my clients feel like when they come, the students of Eating Peace, they feel pretty trapped and pretty unfree when it comes to this predicament. So not really allowing deliberately, don't even know really how. Okay, so if you've got a lot of red, don't feel bad. It's great. You know where you're at on your journey. If you're interested in working with me on this adventure to a return to eating peace or finding the eating peace that's present here, that's what we're doing in Eating Peace Experience. This particular program goes pretty in depth into all these 9 steps. So we start October 31st and we go all the way till April. We're a small group working together. You get one-on-one time with me, you get group time, and we really look at this step by step. It's a live cohort of people who take the course and address these areas of our relationship with eating and with life, so we can step into a new way of being with food and with our thinking, one that's not stressful, but nourishing. So best way to do that, if you have more questions, is to head to my website, workwithgrace.com, or book a free 15-minute consult, which I've got available also on my website, and just sign up so we can meet and talk and see if it's a good match. So at the time of this recording, the Eating Peace Experience has an early bird tuition, and it's half the price. So love to have you. But even if that's not something that's for you, there's Eating Peace Basics, which is a do-it-yourself 8-week course where you're watching a group of people do the work on a step-by-step 8-module process. There's also a mini workshop on how to do the work on eating issues, like that work of Byron Katie that we need in Breaking the Spells in this Dining on Inquiry segment. That's just like about 2 hours long, but broken up into little short segments so that you can just follow along, log in and follow along. There's a cravings lab also, where for 2 hours, a group gathered together to do the work on cravings, and you can watch that on demand. So things like that are available. And then I just share freely on YouTube and Facebook, answering questions around eating peace. So I give you many beautiful wishes and peace on your journey with this. I know peace is here for you. I know peace is here for you, no matter where you are from, no matter what your experience has been, no matter how far down the road you've gone into crazy eating. I sure did. It's possible to be at peace with food and become the quote unquote normal eater, peaceful eater that you were born to be. We're all born normal. It's just something happens along the way with this identity and all these thoughts and feelings. So hope this was really useful. Thanks for being here. Lots of love, everybody.